Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and our Simple Abundance Year. This is our year-long journey through Sarah Ban Beathnach's book Simple Abundance, and it is now December 2020 if you're watching live with me. And I'm going to talk today about a couple of her early December entries. I really like the entry from December 1st called Charmed Lives. And you know the movie It's a Wonderful Life? And then there's been so many reincarnations of that or variations of that where it's like, well, you either wish you were never born, or you might switch places with someone else, or you're dreaming of like 30 going, what is it, 13 going on 30, where you dream of being older, and then there's some magical plot twist that puts you there. So in this Charmed Life entry, Sarah tells us a big long story about a woman that's gotten to a point in her life where things just, they haven't worked out the way she thought they were going to work out. And she's looking at all the people that are highlighted in the magazines, and she considers that they have like what's called a quote unquote charmed life. Okay. So I forget how she meets somebody who says, okay, so I forget if it's like an angel or something that that is talking to her, and then says, you know, it's like a dream or you know, it's something like a fantasy sort of experience. But the boss is who it is. The boss says, "There's a holiday special going on right now. Come up and choose another life, or choose strength, wisdom, and grace." It's a package. Strength to meet your challenges, wisdom to embrace real life, and grace to be grateful not only for what you have, but what you've escaped. So isn't that an interesting thought too? Because you might feel like your life isn't the way you want it. And I've shared that with you guys throughout the year, that I've definitely had some moments like that. But then think about what you've escaped, right? You could have somebody else's life. You might be, and we talked about this in the gratitude entry, and one of you made a comment, something to the point of that you try to be grateful for things that you know that other people don't have. And I think that's kind of similar to this, where it's like maybe you escaped something that, like not having a roof over your head or something, like you could have been in another life and had that. So that's kind of what the boss is letting you choose. So are you going to come up and switch your life with someone else? So the story goes on to say, and the woman in this story is called Every Woman, by the way. So if I read that, that's what that means. So Every Woman says, "I want a charmed life." "A charmed life it is," said the boss. "Well, let's see what's available." So then Every Woman is looking at a computer screen and seeing all the faces of the women that are quote unquote living a charmed life, or in, you know, that's who she was connected with from this boss, the magical entity. And she kept looking further, and on the surface she was like, "Oh, I really want that. This person's like married to a politician, and they have a housekeeper and all this stuff." So she's looking at all these things. But then come to find out, like below the surface, she says, she keeps asking for other lives. And she says, "Every woman was shaken. I asked for women with charmed lives," she said. "You've only shown me women with great sorrow, humiliation, pain, and despair in designer clothes. Each of these women has been," well, this is what the boss says, "each of these women has been celebrated in her charmed life in those magazines and blogs you're so fond of. Still believe everything you see? So which will it be?" And Every Woman says, "Is it too late to choose strength, grace, and wisdom?" And then the boss says, "Good choice. Has anyone told you lately that you lead a charmed life?" So, yeah, it's about comparison. We had an entry about, it was that complaints, comparisons, compassion. I forget, there were 4 C's, but comparison. And you can see things, especially now in this day and age of social media, you might look at someone's life and think they have it all, but then deep down there could be major things going on. There could be abuse, there could be addictions, there could be just massive toxic relationships, but everybody keeps up appearances. So I think this is a great entry to remind us that we live a charmed life, even if we might not think we do. And everything's not what it seems for other people who we might want to be. And speaking of that, the next entry, what women want. What do we want? We probably want a lot of things. But Sarah says deep down, we want a nap. What do you guys think? Are you guys nappers? I'm not typically a napper unless I'm really tired. And in fact, today I had a little bit of extra time and I was so exhausted, and I had gone to bed early even last night. But I found myself asleep and didn't wake up until the afternoon. And I had so much to do too, but obviously I needed it because that's really unlike me. I'm not typically a napper because sometimes when I nap, I wake up and I'm more tired. You know, it's like you have that groggy wake up in the morning feeling. But Sarah talks more about having little power naps, like an hour long. And she's not even saying like this is actually sleep. Like sleep is something that we're doing at night. This is more like we have our eyes closed. We're sort of like lucidly dreaming. And we're just relaxing and maybe even meditating, praying, just thinking. And, you know, she goes on that it might be a little bit hard to do this in the office, but, you know, sometimes there might be, some offices might have like a way that you could close the door and lay down on a mat or a couch or something. But she does also say that in her family, they always had an afternoon nap on Sundays with her and her kids. Yeah. It's like her alone time. Yeah. And then also, because who knows, I think maybe I am fighting something off, which is why my exhaustion is even more than it normally is. So this next one about when you're sick. Does that mean you stop and give yourself a break and let yourself nap? I think as women, a lot of times we just try to push through things. And if you have obligations, like you're a mom and you're trying to drive everybody everywhere and you're on every meeting and you're trying to work and make it to all the clubs that you're in and everything, then you probably don't stop. Or you have just, you know, meetings coming up that you can't miss. It seems like it's always something. But she does encourage us, just like with other things, to have a boundary. And she says something like, what about if you did just give yourself a break and you told people that you were sick? I have to say, I'm not scared to do that. And I don't get sick often. I mean, I have ailments here and there, but not to the point. Like if I'm sick enough where I would have to call in for work or something, that's pretty rare. But I feel like I'm not afraid to tell someone that I'm sick and I can't come in. And especially right now in COVID times, I mean, at one of my jobs, I have to fill out a questionnaire every time, like if I have any COVID symptoms, and there's so many COVID symptoms. And just because I have an autoimmune condition and just my life is like sometimes I have a lot of those symptoms, but obviously not like the respiratory and really like struggling breathing and stuff like that, things that are serious COVID, and I don't think I have COVID. But in this day and age, if you are feeling sick, I hope you stay home because maybe you do have COVID and you don't want to get other people sick. So let me know if you will give yourself a break. Or maybe, like we talked about in a summer entry, maybe it takes you getting sick for you to even stop. Like you won't allow yourself unless you actually get sick. I hope that doesn't happen to you. But Sarah says, wait, there was something where she said, Oh, and remember she told us when we were talking about the senses that she had an issue with, I think, her vision, and she had a head injury at one point, she said. Um, let's see. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. She's talking about somebody else. But if you've never sustained a head injury, I don't. No, wait. Yes, she is talking about herself. If I'd never sustained a head injury years ago, I don't think I would have started my own business, written a syndicated newspaper column, or eventually published 14 books. Having been forced into nearly 2 years of a sabbatical gave me the opportunity to strike out on a new path. Yeah, sometimes illness could do that. Just like this pandemic. I bet you there's a lot of people that are going to come out of this time that they may not have had to write a book, or there's so many people that are creating things right now. Yeah, I remember Sarah saying that it must have been right after that head injury, she was having some vision issues. And we did talk about the woman with the lump in her breast, and it was like all of a sudden she had breast cancer, and she was the head of the PTA and all these other things, and she kind of said, oh, in a way, I'm just kind of glad I have an excuse. I was doing too much. Like, don't let it come to that, please. And how about, this is funny, remember the movie Romancing the Stone? Well, Sarah's got an entry for today that's called Romancing the Cold. So what if you do let yourself have some downtime when you're sick? What if you have some special luxury pajamas, and hopefully you might have some help, like if you want to change your sheets, so they're nice and clean, that clean feeling. And maybe having some special teas. We talked about having that comfort drawer earlier in the year, so you could break out some things. But I like her idea of having like some really comfortable pajamas. And it made me think when I was reading that my friend's husband, sometimes when men get sick, they call it a man cold, right? Because sometimes it's like a million times worse than even like a little baby that has a cold. But he has a special shirt. It's like this flannel. I think he calls it his wubby. And it's like when he breaks that out, everybody knows that Dad is having a cold, and he likes to really be taken care of when he's sick. And it's just kind of a joke. He puts pictures up on Facebook. He's a funny guy. But it's not a bad idea. Like if you are with your husband or your kids or something, and it's like, oh, mom's got the sick scarf on, or some sort of like thing where they know that you need some extra TLC. It's not a bad idea. So how can you romance a cold if you have one? You could think about that. Yeah, try to be as comfortable as you can. Maybe it's also, she mentions a water bottle. I have these microwavable heating pads that have the rice in them, I just love that feeling. So maybe it's electric blanket, maybe it's something like that, maybe it's getting in the bathtub, maybe it's essential oils. She does mention, if you're sick, that it's like staying fresh and clean is, sometimes you're so exhausted, but it does make you feel better. And sometimes when you have a cold and you take a shower, it's like the steam in the shower feels good. And she talks about when she was sick, her mom used to wipe her off with a warm washcloth and sort of say she was like wiping the sickness away. So that was sort of a sentimental thing for her. And also she mentions things like getting softer tissues. Maybe you use a handkerchief or something that's really soft, because your nose can get raw. And drinking through a straw if you have cold sores, or a small jar of flavored honey to dip a little spoon in every so often and suck on it, like if your throat's hurting. And remember to wash your hands frequently. I think we're all experts at that by now. And a lovely sort of special soap that you could use, or lotion as well, something like that. And listening to soothing music and letting yourself sleep, like we said. Yeah. There's a quote from Adair Lara, says, The sad truth is there's no point in getting sick when you're a grown-up. You know why? It's because being sick is about you and your mother. Somebody said in one of the comments that when you were sick when you were little, or maybe you felt like you were getting more attention. I think that's what the comment was about. But yeah, that could be that feeling of somebody taking care of you. I didn't grow up that way because my mom died so young, so I don't really have memories like that. But I know when I get sick, I would prefer somebody be there. I feel like when I get sick, I'm just even more emotional. And like I just want somebody to, you know, check on me and stuff. Like last year, I mentioned my surgery. My dad came and stayed for a while, and it was just so nice because, you know, he was like heating up the heating pads for me and getting me soup, and it was nice. It was nice to have the company too. And I wasn't like sneezing all over him or anything. That was a different situation. But preparing for a romancing the cold box. So you can put, let's see, what does she say? It's a genius part. So like you could give that to yourself for the holidays, and you could give it to other people. So you would fill it up with supplies and things. And she says Etsy is a good place. Yeah. That's a thought. I've seen other sort of kits, like, you know, similar idea, but not necessarily for getting sick. So that's an interesting idea. All right, that's where I'm going to stop for today. But we've had some things to think about. Napping, being happier with our lives and realizing what we've potentially escaped, right? And that other lives are not always what they seem. And taking care of yourself if you're sick, and hopefully not letting it get to the point where you get so sick that that's the only reason that you stop. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Thank you for being here on the channel, and I'll see you for the next video. Please leave me a comment because I love hearing from you guys. All right. Love to you all. Bye-bye.